Hello and welcome to the channel. I am Slotcar 2021 and you're listening to part 2 of mag versus non-mag. And just before we get into this, I just want to say, if you're in the UK and you haven't tried the Aldi Snack Right fully loaded buffalo wing peanuts, you don't know what you're missing. If you like peanuts, if you like buffalo wing, yeah, bit of a strange rant there, but yeah, I just found these really tasty peanuts. So if you like peanuts and buffalo wing, then definitely recommend you go down to Aldi and pick some up. Anyway, bit random, but let's get into this. So just before we do get into part 2, I just want to apologise. In part 1, I didn't really do much research into HO, and I don't know that much about HO, but I just wanted to update on the history a bit more, do it a bit of justice, and apologise for that. So HO, so English inventor Derek Brand first developed motorised cars for 00 scale, and these were to go with trains, so 00 scale trains. So it was 1/76th scale, which is slightly larger than the HO, which is actually 1/87th scale. And a company called Playcraft marketed this in England under Electric Model Motor Racing, and this was to go alongside the trains on the layouts. And Aurora saw this at the London Toy Fair or UK Toy Fair, and thought this is pretty good. So they actually acquired the rights to market and sell this in the US, and they referred to it as HO, which is actually incorrect, because it was actually still 00 scale, but they didn't really let on to that. But with the UK market, that kind of tanked, and it was maybe popular for a year or so. But after that, 132 was taken up in the UK more. Obviously, you still probably got people that are interested, and Playcraft did have an office in the UK still, to support the people that still, the small minority that had the product. But Aurora basically took this over, and in 1963, you had the birth of the American Thunderjet chassis, and it really disappeared in England. And interestingly, though, Derek Brand went on to design the Aurora AFX and Tyco 440 Magnum 1/64th chassis. So that's interesting, and they go alone there after Playcraft go out of business. So then that was kind of non-mag era, but the cars weren't particularly fast, and people really were interested in not having it just on a train layout, but I think they really failed to catch that audience until a bit later. And then when it got really popular, Aurora came out with that the 8-lane HO Raceway, and they kept developing the product from there, and it kind of snowballed. And you've got all these different companies, obviously Tyco, who did a lot of trains, classic toy manufacturer. But yeah, and magnets started to become a thing around 1974, or maybe a little bit earlier, but kind of mass market. And they actually saw that there was a magnetic effect from the motor, a bit like today's cars that use the motor as a magnet. So they realised that this was a positive, and they actually developed a new AFX magnet traction chassis, and that kind of then developed further and further, and magnets were added, and so on. So yeah, it's interesting. I know there's all the different chassis types, but I'm not an expert on HO. So if people are an expert on HO and want to fill in the missing bits, then please do so in the comments. And I would love to hear a bit more on HO, and if you race back, way back. Yeah, I think HO's in the UK, it's really kind of not recognised as a hobby grade scale, whereas in the US, I think it's raced a bit more at a hobby level. There are clubs in the UK, but they're very far and few between, unfortunately. And pretty much all we have here, we do have HO, but it's Scalextric, the micro Scalextric system. We don't really have AFX anymore. It's not distributed in the UK anymore, which is strange because I grew up with AFX. I grew up with the analog lap timers that sat over the track, and there were like 2 dials to count each of the laps, and as you came through it, the car hit the plastic strip and counted a lap. So I've got some fond memories of AFX, and yeah, I had an F1 set, and if I had kept that set, it would have been worth a lot of money now. So as you do, you always regret getting rid of them, but obviously you can't contemplate at the time, they're not worth anything. But you know, years go by, and then if you have a pristine box condition example, then you're going to be getting quite a bit of money for that. So yeah. So I didn't have Scalextric micro. That was very early on, the micro. I can't remember which year that came out, but I had AFX, and there was a model shop that I used to go to with my dad, and we used to look at all the cars and figure out what expansions we were going to get. So we got the chicane and a few other bits. But yeah, it's that nostalgic kind of block power connectors and the hand controllers, the AFX hand controllers. So yeah, it was. So I grew up with that. So for me, HO was my first taste of slot racing, which is it's a great system. The AFX system, in my opinion, it's iconic. But saying that, I've got micro Scalextric now. I've got the new system, which if you want to check out, that I've got a video review of a set that I've reviewed, and I have to say, and I believe Dave Kennedy consulted on the the rebranded and new system, and yeah, it's very, very good. Really, really impressed. The only downside is it's 9 volts, which doesn't isn't really compatible with any other cars from like the US and track systems. It just doesn't really work. I guess you could put a variable power supply on, but the cars are designed basically to run at 9 volts. So yeah, I mean you could put, and then in terms of the other brand cars, they're designed to run at higher voltage, so they're not really compatible, which is a shame. But I have to say that the new motors in the micro are very, very fast. I think you know, for a 9 volt system they perform exceptionally well, especially when you modify the cars. So I've modified one of the cars and glued and trued the rear tires and put some new braid on. Or yeah, I think maybe I put some new braid on, and put some conditioner on the rear tires as well, and that made a massive difference. I also pushed the magnets up into the chassis a bit more to reduce the magnetic effect, and yeah, I got some really good results with that. But yeah, in terms of magnets, so we'll get back on track to magnets. HO, I think that HO scale is probably the scale that should be ran with magnets, in my opinion. It lends itself well to running with magnets. The size of the layouts, you can get a layout on a dining room table, and the cars are going round quick. But because the cars are so light, they're sticking to that track. Whereas the 132 are obviously a bit bigger, a bit heavier cars. I think they lend themselves better to non-magnet. But we'll talk about 132 in the next part. So that'll be part 3. So we're just going to focus on HO. So the magnets at club level, I believe, I don't really know too much about this, but I believe that you can run different strengths of magnets, and they have different classes, different chassis classes as well. So interesting. Again, if anyone wants to comment on that, please do so in the comments below. But yeah, I do enjoy HO scale. There's just something about it. I think because the cars are so small, they're whipping around the track so quick. It's just a good experience, and it's a good experience for children. It's a good experience for family fun as well, and it's a good experience at a club level as well. I know that there's HO drag racing. I know that there's non-magnet, there's magnet classes. So, and a lot of the modifications, I've been looking into what people do to the cars, and it's very similar to 132 scale in terms of what they do to modify. So obviously lowering the chassis down, low profile tires, independent front axles, custom kind of builds as well, and modifications. People are creating custom bodies. It's amazing at that scale. It really is. and it's just a fun scale, I think. So yeah, I think there's no harm with magnets. In terms of kind of some of the myths around magnet racing, non-magnet racing is slower. That's a myth, but we'll get onto that in 132. So magnets are easier for the novice. That is true at a kind of a recreational level. Obviously, club racing, then it's not going to be, because the controllers and the setup of the cars is going to make a big difference. So it's kind of the same as non-mag in terms of at that level, you're going to see a difference in terms of setup, performance, and what you do to the car, and the ability to the skill that's needed to use the controller. So yeah, if you're someone that just gets a set and you're just looking to race with family, the magnets are going to help you in terms of keeping the cars on the track. It's no fun if you're coming off at every corner. It's good to have a competitive race, and magnets allow you to do that. At the end of the day, it's all about having fun. If you're having fun, then that's all that really matters. So yeah, I think in terms of an entry point, HO is fantastic. And then if you want to then race HO, you can then go on to do that as well. So HO tends to be a bit cheaper. I know in the US actually, the prices are a lot higher. So in the UK, if we're looking at a chassis for, say, like the new Scalextric micro sets, those cars go for not that much money. You're looking at around in the UK between £12 and £15 for a car, which is really, really good. But I did notice that if you're looking at like the Mega G Plus chassis, you're paying a lot of money for those. And I understand that, and all the hop-up parts. So as you go into the more hobby focused cars and all the customization and changes that you have to make to the car, obviously it's going to cost you a lot more money, controllers, everything else. But at face value, HO is going to be cheaper if you're looking to just give it a go, see if you enjoy it, and maybe it's a good starting point compared to HO. 132. Especially if you've got a family and you kind of want to see if the rest of the family are interested. Yeah, and I think a couple more minutes and we're going to leave it there for today. And next week we're going to be talking about 132 scale mag versus non-mag and what my thoughts are. Obviously people enjoy magnet racing and non-magnet racing, but HO, I don't see a problem. I think it does lend itself to being, if you're going to race any scale magnet, then HO is the obvious choice in my opinion. So do let me know your thoughts down below. And yeah, we're going to wrap this up then. Okay, thanks guys, and catch you next week for part 3. Take care. Bye.